What will vulnerability in the U.S. look like in the year 2030? It's a difficult question to answer, but one which we must consider in order to understand the uncertainties that will shape the future.
One way of addressing uncertainty is to think in terms of scenarios. Scenarios describe the range of plausible futures that could emerge. As the recent recession has taught us, big changes can occur over a relatively short period of time.
This is a lesson we seem to learn over and over again. Thus, planning for just one assumed future is likely to miss the mark. Scenarios help us consider the forces that will shape the future, as well as the actions we could take today that would bring us closer to the future we'd prefer.
This scenario toolkit will help you and your organization identify the emerging challenges you'll have to contend with, as well as the emerging opportunities to make your efforts more effective. The toolkit contains a short video for each of the 4 scenarios developed by the Institute for Alternative Futures, or IAF, with support from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation's Vulnerable Populations portfolio. This toolkit also contains an agenda and worksheets so that your organization can think in a structured way about the implications of these scenarios for your efforts. If your organization does use these scenarios to explore the future and consider the implications, we hope that you will send the results to IAF so that we can share the learning that will take place across many organizations. Exploring the future is most meaningful when it improves what we're doing today. So we hope that these scenarios will help you and your organization create a future with much less vulnerability.
IAF's approach to developing scenarios is called aspirational futures. It's aspirational because it explicitly considers what kind of future an organization would like to create. To do this, it explores futures in 3 different zones. A zone of conventional expectation includes futures that largely extrapolate the trends and forces we already know about today. This can be thought of as the official future, and it is the future around which many organizations, governments, and companies do their planning. A zone of growing desperation asks the question, what could go wrong? The purpose of scenarios in this zone is not to throw the organization over the cliff, but rather to appreciate the challenges that society and the organization may face. The zone of high aspiration captures the future that people would like to create, scenarios that are visionary and surprisingly successful, and that defines the paths to that visionary success. Surprisingly, these scenarios are often the most difficult to describe, since we are, in a sense, programmed to give greater attention to risks than to opportunities. To counterbalance this tendency for the bad to overpower the good, IAF typically develops 2 different scenarios in the zone of high aspiration. This enhances our perceptions of the factors that can drive us toward visionary success. In this toolkit, you will find an agenda and worksheets to guide you through the process of considering the implications of these vulnerability scenarios for your organization's efforts. As you watch the videos, try to suspend judgment on whether or not a particular scenario will happen, and instead ask yourself what it would mean to you and your organization if the scenario did happen. These scenarios are the result of a year-long process that included research into 10 key forces seen as shaping the future of vulnerability, as well as interviews with experts and thought leaders in related fields. The scenarios were also released in draft form, and comments from the public have been incorporated into the final versions.
While no one can predict exactly what will happen, we're confident that these scenarios capture a wide range of the plausible space that we need to consider when planning for the future.
We live in a particularly challenging time for vulnerable populations, and things could get worse. Yet there is reason to hope, and reviewing visions of a preferred future can help guide and inspire change. The economy could recover. Research could yield low-cost and sustainable energy alternatives within a decade. Social movements focused on expanding fairness, creating healthy communities, promoting sustainability, and reforming education could gain momentum.
We hope that these scenarios will help you and your organization see beyond the extrapolative view of the future, where vulnerability remains widespread. We hope these scenarios will help you anticipate future challenges, while at the same time identifying steps you can take today to create the future you'd prefer. As IAF researched the history of vulnerability in the U.S. for this project, it became clear that what happens is not inevitable. The future does not just happen. Just as past successes in dealing with vulnerability came from people caring, daring, and working hard, the future too will depend on us. Scenarios help us consider the different challenges we may face and explore the range of options that we have now and that we will have in the future.
After watching each of the scenario videos, reflect for a moment. What feelings do you have after that future? What questions do you have that you would like to see answered? What would you need to know more about in order to better understand the implications for your organization? What changes would you make to what you are doing today if you knew that this scenario was going to happen? After you've watched all 4 scenario videos, are there strategies you could pursue today that would make sense across multiple scenarios? We call these robust strategies. Conversely, there may be strategies you are doing today that may be counterproductive in the future and that you should consider stopping. The agenda and worksheets will help you explore all these questions.